Hey, welcome back to Happy Little Notaries. I had eggs for breakfast, and yeah, it was quite good, and I hope you had a good breakfast too. So we're going to dive right back into our discussion on Lab, and what Lab is, what Lab does. If you watched the previous video, we walked through this setup here that we kind of did, where we took our footage and put it out through OpenDRT. But then we did some lab adjustments in the middle and some regular color balancing underneath that. Today we're going to talk about what if we didn't do it where, because this way we did it where you picked a color space and then picked the color space lab and had it all do it internally. What options exist to not do it like this? So we're just going to save our adjustments here. We're actually going to tell it, put these adjustments back into use timeline mode, which is going to make our image go goofy as all get out. That don't look right. And we're going to kind of rebuild everything here around that and talk about some options. So one of the things you can do is you can tell it to jump into Lab that way, or you can go, we're going to do color space transforms and get our way into it this way. So we have our footage. We've put it in Davinci Wide Gamut, Davinci Wide Intermediate. We're going to turn this off, and we're going to go pretty much easiest way. Probably just take this, copy, and we're going to paste the settings over here. And we're going to change the label, and we're going to say that we want to put this into Lab, to Lab. And all we're going to do is swap this around so that our Davinci Wide Gamut, Davinci Wide Intermediate is on top. And we're going to tell it we want to keep it in Davinci Wide Gamut, and we're going to go back to, we're going to go to Lab. So put it in Linear and Lab. There we go. This is where we want to be. Our XYZ, is it XYZ? Yeah, Linear. There we go. Because XYZ is its own thing, we're doing Lab, and so then on this side we're going to have to add another node on the outset, and we're going to have to say copy this, paste it, flip it and reverse it, and now our image is back. And you remember when we had these two nodes set like not on, this was set to our timeline space, but when we switched to color space, we can turn that on, and we can actually pull this still, which is what our original still was, and play it. And you can see there is no difference in this still. We can look at, if we turn these off, again. So this is if they're off versus on, and that's why you can see when we turn them back on, there's no difference. Our image is what it is. It was what it was, how we had it set up before. And that's one of the great things with how we're talking about things. We're not changing with these two nodes. We're not changing from our color space. We are still leaving the channels selected as channel 1 and then channel AB as their own thing. So, but we've gotten into lab space using CSTs, and that is where we can talk about something cool else. So there is some smart people out there, and I still have to figure out if I can share this with you. I think I can. I might package this all up. If there isn't already a link in the description to some power grades, this will be included as a download because I don't know where to get it. I got it from a colorist friend who we were talking about things, but this is called JK Layout Models, and this actually, if we look at this control here, it lets us pick Sci Lab or OK Lab, which are just different models of how we're going to say change this to JK Sci Lab, just so we know what it is, and so we need two of these. We're going to put up 2, like so. We're going to just copy, next node, paste, and now we have forward and reverse. Flip it and reverse it. So this puts it in, puts it out, like so. So we have our lab. We're going to, from here, Davinci Wide Gamut, to linear, lab linear, and then this. So we can actually go like this. Let's see what happens if we go and put, if I recall, this needs to go, yeah. So this is getting into, we're going to set this up in a really unique way. We're going to kind of build this so we can have easy cross comparisons. All right, so we're here. Let me think for a second. New still album, just so I can keep things separated. Grab this still. So this is our CST in Resolve set still. This is going to be, we're going to label this so I remember this. Change label. Lab. Nope. Change the label on the still. Come on. Nope. Okay. It's not letting me change the label. That's weird. Anyways, well, we'll just move on from that and not dilly-dally. So we're going to just take this. We're going to actually change this CST to leave it in Davinci Wide Gamut and put it in linear. And we're going to pipe it in here, and we're going to pipe this in here, and we're going to pipe this back out here, and we're going to tell it that we want to go back out to here. And this has got to go back to Davinci Wide Gamut, but we're saying Davinci Wide Intermediate. And now we've done all that, and you go, oh, well, that's weird. Why did you waste time doing that? When the end result is, if we match her up, and we'll match reference frame, there's no difference between these. Well, we can center this, and that kind of changes how things function. So now we're anchored to the center. We can also flip these to OK Lab, which is a slightly different color science, but still lab, so it's still an opponent-based model, but it completely affects and changes how our lab works. So this is, let's switch this to running with Scilab first, so that we have that as our baseline. Scilab, let's just make sure it's Scilab to OK Lab. Yeah, so the math is different. And you can play around with that. So this one is now the JK conversion. So we went into linear space and put ourselves into Scilab and did a forward and inverse movement from linear to that. So it's just adding in, but these tools are still sitting here like this. One of the things I like, and the reasons why I think that this affords some more flexibility, is because you can, one, you can change things. Two, you have some settings with controlling and anchoring your A/B points to 0, which is interesting. And we can also just pull up and go, what does OK Lab look like differently? So it just bundles and kind of allows you to quickly switch between the models without much of a change. And that's why now you can see the still. If we turn off, this is OK Lab, and the right side, the left side is Scilab. So there's slight differences. So you can flip between the two very easily once you have your setup, and that affects how you're probably going to grade this entire look under here. So there is that, and then we can do some other things. When we're talking about lab, in the previous video we talked about adjusting L and AB using custom curves, but you can also work your gain wheels. So if we're going to stick to OK Lab for now, just as it is. We're going to reset our custom curves and put us back to a banal starting point of at least low saturation. We're going to bring up our wheels here, and you can see in the AB model we can work our wheels to reshape and stretch out the image and make our look dev choices that way, and kind of just play things around. It takes some fiddling. It works. You're pretty much changing that contrast curve and pushing things around like so. Let's see if we can get that same level of separation and saturation that we had before. But yeah, it works and operates slightly differently, but you can work it like that. Gain as well is kind of still drawing that same contrast curve in and out. And then we're going to go to the next node and we're going to tweak that and kind of pull those skin tones back into line. But your wheels and everything you use are going to function in a way that is counterintuitive to how you would let's see how that's affecting the sound. There's somebody vacuuming outside my door right now, but that's okay. So yeah, your wheels don't work like they do. Going up is in down, it's all over the map. Going down pushes things up on the gain wheel when you're working on that A-B channel. Which brings us to this alternate point of what you can do. So we could actually go, because we've set this up like this, we'll just clean up our node graph real quick. So we're still working at L, A, and B. Our L is here, feeding into our A, B adjustments, and what we can do is actually go add a little parallel mixer. And now we can go and change our node. So our color space is use timeline. We're going to change our channel and from turn off 2 and we're going to turn off 3. And this one we're going to turn off 3. Now when we're working on this, if we're working in our wheels, we're only affecting one channel in one direction, not the band. And so you can see we're pretty much only shifting up or down on the vector scope. When we push up, we go down. When we go side to side, nothing's happening. It's only on our gain wheel we go up and down, and we're working just that A-B axis in an opponent model of forcing the color shift that is occurring. If we switch to, we can change this node label to A. Node label B. And now we're working the B channel, and you can see up and down really does nothing on our gain wheel. It's only going, because I'm accidentally going sideways, but going left goes right, and going right goes left. And so now we can kind of go like that and dial it in nicely. Kind of steer saturation, where our point is lining up on it. And I think we turned off anchoring. We could actually anchor it, and you can see what happens when we anchor. It fundamentally changes a lot of how the controls work. You can see everything stretches from, if you're looking at the vector scope. So when you switch on center at 0, everything is anchored to the central point, so that when you're making your adjustments on, say, your gain wheels, you can see it's just stretching the vector scope. You're not moving everything, you're just stretching out that saturation, and that is how it's anchoring it. You can see we can lighten it up, and you can see we're just getting a funky image now, but when we move things around, we're kind of just pinching, and this is functioning slightly differently than it was before, but we're still working in that opponent model of left to right. Left pinches, right, going right expands when we have it centered. Right expands, left pinches. And so that's how you can start to kind of shape some of the aspects of what you're doing in a way. This one would be with it centered and anchored to 0. Up pinches it closed, and up and down stretches it. And that doesn't mean like we said before, you're still open to making adjustments underneath, which can kind of just shift what's getting fed into the machine of the lab and do your shot level adjustments, which is why I feel like, for me personally, a lot of what's going on here is something that I would consider working into my macro look dev. Just this really soft touch. This is how I want my hues to be saturated and controlled in terms of how you want to think about that. But this DCTL, there'll be a link either to it directly on GitHub or somewhere else, or I'll have it available off the website as well at some point and someday. And when it is, there will be a link in the description. But until then, play around with Lab. It's interesting, it's fun, and it breaks you out of the monotony of always adjusting your colors in RGB space and forcing you to think about, wait a sec, how do I get the saturation? How do I do these things? And changes your muscle memory quite a bit. But yeah, it's quite fun. We can apply the same look to other images as well. Let's just try this one. You get that same. I mean, we are all over the, normally you don't just crank down on an image and apply it elsewhere, but that ain't bad. It's very, got some fun tonality to it and is graceful. If we did it to the sunset one over here, just take that same exact look. Whoa, got some stuff going on in that sun. It looks more like a nuclear explosion. But until next time, this was me signing off for Happy Little No Trees. Get a good breakfast and start your day with good color. What's she doing here? If we click on that. Interesting. Some breakage, but interesting. We can dial that back in. Funsies.